supports WSST because local matters.
Yes, the J.W. Williams Funeral Directors have been proudly serving the people of this community since 1918. Service is our motto. The poor, the rich, the middle class and all are given the best of care and attention at all times. You have the privilege to select what you want. In your time of need, contact the capable, the competent, and the dependable staff of the J.W. Williams Funeral Home who is genuinely concerned with your care. At J.W. Williams Funeral Home, you are aptly served by the proprietor president, Deacon Arthur L. Parker, who continues the traditions and values set forth by the past president, Dr. Napoleon Williams. Your announcers for the J.W. Williams Funeral Home Sunday morning program are Deacon Arthur L. Parker, Reverend Isaac H. Owens, Mrs. Calandra Wilkerson Parker, Minister Frankie Harmon, Miss Sandra Johnson, and Deacon Earl Clark, Jr.
Thank you, and good morning, friends. We'll come to you this morning to bring announcements, dedications, and songs. We certainly hope that your day may be brighter after listening to our program. The family of Mr. Joe Lewis Mabel of Americus, Georgia. The family of Mr. Anthony Leron Farrell of Cordele, Georgia. The family of Mrs. Ethel Everett Telfair of Cordele, Georgia. The family of Deaconess Lakeisha Thomas Williams of Cordele, Georgia. The family of beloved church mother, Mother Margaret Brown Wright, age 98, of DeSoto, Georgia, would like to thank their many friends for the food, the flowers, the condolences, and all other expressions of sympathy and kindness shown to them during their hours of sorrow and bereavement during the past week. Mr. Joe Lewis Mabel, age 84, of 60 Brinston Street, Americus, Georgia, died Monday, February 8th at Grady Memorial Hospital in Atlanta, Georgia. The funeral service for Mr. Joe Lewis Mabel, age 84, was held Sunday, February 21st, graveside at the Eastview Cemetery in Americus, Georgia. The Reverend George F. Muntz officiated. Survivors include his loving and devoted children, Miss Linda Mabel, Mrs. Jacqueline Briscoe and her husband, Mr. Ryan Briscoe, Miss Joanne Mabel, Mrs. Ellen Johnson and her husband, Mr. Ora Johnson, Miss Margaret Johnson and her husband, Mr. Lee Johnson, Mr. Jeff David Mabel, and Mr. Danny Mabel, all of Wilmington, Delaware. His beloved stepdaughter, Miss Deborah Clark of Americus, Georgia. His stepson, Mr. Sammy Clark, and his wife, Mrs. Janet Clark of Warner Robins, Georgia. 40 beloved grandchildren, to include a devoted grandson, Mr. Eddie Mabel, Jr., and his wife, Mrs. Kizzy Mabel of Americus, Georgia. 86 beloved great-grandchildren, 12 great-great-grandchildren, his beloved and devoted sisters, Mrs. Willie Bateman and her husband, Mr. Jesse Bateman, Mrs. Georgia Johnson and her husband, Mr. Lawrence Johnson, Mrs. Ola May Lyles, Mrs. Patricia Bell and her husband, Mr. David Bell, and Miss Jenny Mae Lyles, all of Americus, Georgia. Mrs. Dorothy Hamilton and her husband, Mr. James Hamilton, of Warner Robins, Georgia. And Mrs. Evelyn Asbury and her husband, Mr. Jimmy Asbury, of Ellaville, Georgia. His beloved brother, Mr. Johnny Mabel Sr., and his wife, Mrs. Patricia Mabel, of Americus, Georgia. A beloved brother-in-law, Deacon Charles Cooper Sr., of Americus, Georgia. One uncle, Mr. George Banks Sr., of Americus, Georgia. A devoted friend, Ms. Agnes Towns, of Andersonville, Georgia. A host of nieces and nephews, to include his devoted nephew, Mr. Lafayette Banks, of Americus, Georgia. His beloved niece, Mrs. Betty Foster, of Americus, Georgia. A host of cousins, other relatives, and many sorrowing friends survive. Mr. Joe Lewis Mabel, age 84, of 60 Brinson Street, Americus, Georgia. Mr. Anthony Leron Farrell, age 36, of 806 Pateville Heights Circle, Cordele, Georgia, died Wednesday, February 17, at the Chris Regional Hospital in Cordele, Georgia. The funeral service for Mr. Anthony Leron Farrell, age 36, was held Wednesday, February 24th, graveside at the Sunnyside Cemetery in Cordele, Georgia. The Reverend Isaac H. Owens, pastor of the Mount Calvary Baptist Church, officiated. Survivors include his loving and devoted mother, Miss Brenda Farrell of Cordele, Georgia. His loving and devoted sisters, Miss Andrika Wilson of Atlanta, Georgia, Miss Sherry Wilson of Miami, Florida, Mrs. Courtney Gray of Cordele, Georgia, Mrs. Ethel Fernandez and her husband, Mr. Roland Fernandez, and Mrs. Cynthia Gardner and her husband, Mr. Aswell Gardner, both of Miami, Florida, Mrs. Lucy Paul of Cordele, Georgia, his beloved brothers, Mr. Andrew Farrell of Miami, Florida, Mr. Travis Bowens and his wife, Mrs. Michelle Bowens of Columbus, Georgia, Mr. Anthony Wilson of Miami, Florida, and Mr. Leroy Robinson of Cordele, Georgia. A beloved stepmother, Miss Sonia Wilson of Miami, Florida. His beloved aunts and uncles, Mr. Eugene Farrell and Mr. Sammy Rainey, both of Miami, Florida. Mr. Wallace Farrell of Cordele, Georgia. Ms. Diana Bridges and her husband Sean Bridges of Columbus, Georgia. Miss Yvonne Kennedy, Miss Donna Gaston, and Miss Mamie Mapp, all of Cordele, Georgia. A host of nieces and nephews, many cousins, other relatives, and many sorrowing friends, to include Miss Amita Mason, Mr. James Mason, Miss Katina McVeigh, survived. Mr. Anthony Leron Farrell, age 36, of 806 Pateville Heights Court, Cordele, Georgia. Mrs. Ethel Everett Telfair, age 66, of 1108 South Joe Wright Drive, Cordele, Georgia, died Friday, February 19th at her residence in Cordele, Georgia. The funeral service for Mrs. Ethel Everett Telfair, age 66, was held Thursday, February 25th, graveside at the Sunnyside Cemetery in Cordele, Georgia. The Reverend Isaac H. Owens, pastor of the Mount Calvary Baptist Church, officiated. Survivors include her loving and devoted husband, the City of Cordele Fire Chief Augusta Telfair Jr. of Cordele, Georgia. Her loving and devoted children, Mrs. Stephanie Hutchins and her husband, Mr. Wesley Hutchins, and Mr. Michael Telfair and his companion, Miss Crystal Grant, all of Cordele, Georgia. Miss Regina Morning, Miss Carla Johnson and her husband, Mr. Tyrone Johnson, Mr. Scott Grant and his wife, Mrs. Shakiva Grant, and Miss Laverna Grant, all of Warner Robins, Georgia. Mr. Rontavious Telfair, Barnell, Georgia, and Minister April Pettigrew. A host of grandchildren and great-grandchildren, her beloved siblings, Mr. Lord Everett, Mrs. Deborah Frederick, Miss Thelma Frederick, and Mr. Donald Frederick, all of Hawkinsville, Georgia. Miss Arizona Patterson and her husband, Mr. Henry Patterson, of Warner Robins, Georgia. Miss Peggy Thomas of Chicago, Illinois. Mr. Otha Lee Sutton, Sr. of Unadilla, Georgia. Mr. Willie T. Sutton of Henderson, Georgia. Mrs. Audrey R. Smith of Tallahassee, Florida. Miss Glenda Dunn, Miss Faye Kynes, and her husband, the Reverend Bernard Kynes, and Mrs. Margarita Smith of Stone Mountain, Georgia. A host of nieces and nephews, many cousins, other relatives, and many sorrowing friends survive. Mrs. Ethel May Everett Telfair, age 66, of 1108 South Joe Wright Drive, Cordele, Georgia. Deaconess Lakeisha Deshauna Thomas Williams, age 46, of 1504 South Pecan Street, Cordele, Georgia, died Monday, February 22nd, 2021, at the Phoebus Sumter Medical Center in Americus, Georgia. The funeral service for Deaconess Lakeisha Deshauna Thomas Williams, age 46, was held Friday, February 26, graveside at the Sunnyside Cemetery in Cordele, Georgia. Her pastor, the Reverend Jeff Wilson, pastor of the Odom Grove Baptist Church, officiated. Survivors include her loving and devoted husband, Deacon Darren Spencer Williams of Cordele, Georgia, her beloved mother, Miss Gloria Pollock of Cordele, Georgia, her beloved father, Deacon Cozy Lee Thomas, and his wife, Minister Vernell Thomas of Cordele, Georgia, her loving and devoted sisters, Ms. Felicia Edwards and her husband, Sir Lee Edwards, and Mrs. Terry Butts and her husband, Mr. Wayne Butts of Cordele, Georgia, Miss Tammy Harvey of Warner Robins, Georgia, her beloved brothers, Mr. Cedric Quarterman of Cordele, Georgia, Mr. Carlton Thomas and his wife, Mrs. Tanika Thomas of Vienna, Georgia, Mr. Darnell Harvey and his wife, Mrs. Bridget Harvey of Warner Robins, Georgia, and Mr. Cozy Harvey and his wife, Mrs. Jackie Harvey of Miami, Florida. Her beloved aunts and uncles, Mrs. Maybelline Woods of Oak Ridge, Tennessee, Mr. Jimmy Felton and his wife, Mrs. Martina Felton of Knoxville, Tennessee, Mr. Larry J. Felton of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Miss Luana F. Manning of McDonald, Georgia, Miss Deborah Stembridge of Macon, Georgia, Miss Sandra D. Felton, Elder Linton Felton and his wife, Mrs. Brianna Felton of Hinesville, Georgia, Mr. Chris Felton and his wife, Mrs. Deborah Felton of Pelham, Georgia, Mrs. Olympia Felton of Warner Robins, Georgia, Miss Luana Faye Williams and Mrs. Jennifer Daniels of Vienna, Georgia, Ms. Rosa Henry of Valdosta, Georgia, Mr. Tommy L. Smith and his wife, Miss Patricia Smith of Byram, Georgia, Miss Mary E. Smith of Salem, North Carolina, Mrs. Carolyn Odie of East Point, Georgia, Georgia. Mr. Gray Thomas of Jacksonville, Florida. Mr. Jesse James Felton Jr., Mrs. Etta Wise and her husband, Elder James Wise. Mrs. Geraldine Felton, Mrs. Joanne P. Williams and her husband, Minister Robbie Williams. Mrs. Fannie M. Pope and her husband, Mr. Robert Pope. Minister Annette V. Clark and her husband, Elder J.C. Clark. Mr. David S. Felton and Mr. George S. Felton and his wife, Mrs. Annette Felton, all of Cordele, Georgia. A host of nieces and nephews, to include Diana Diamond Armstrong and Kyla T. Edwards, 6 beloved sisters-in-law, 6 brothers-in-law, a host of cousins, other relatives, and many, many sorrowing friends, to include her special friends, Miss Lakeisha Braswell of Macon, Georgia, Mrs. April Thompson, and Miss Ebony Jones of Cordele, Georgia. All survive. Deaconess Lakeisha DeShanta Thomas Williams, age 46, of 1504 South Pecan Street, Cordele, Georgia. Beloved church mother, Mother Margaret Brown Wright, age 98, church mother of the Antioch Baptist Church of DeSoto, Georgia. 506 Stiles Road, DeSoto, Georgia, died Monday, February 22nd, at her residence in DeSoto, Georgia. The funeral service for beloved church mother, Mother Margaret Brown Wright, age 98, was held Saturday, February 27th, on the grounds of her beloved Antioch Baptist Church in DeSoto, Georgia. The burial followed at the Antioch Church Cemetery in DeSoto, Georgia. Her beloved pastor, the Reverend Lorenzo Mullins, pastor of the Antioch Baptist Church, officiated. Survivors include her loving and devoted children, Mr. Leotis Wright and Mr. Kenneth Wright of DeSoto, Georgia, Mrs. Martha McGee and Mr. Ulysses Wright and his wife, Mrs. Elizabeth Wright of Americus, Georgia, Mrs. Yvonne Antwine and her husband, Mr. Wayne Antwine of Stone Mountain, Georgia, a beloved daughter-in-law, Mrs. Annie Wright of DeSoto, Georgia, a step-son-in-law, Deacon Lucius Ball Sr. of DeSoto, Georgia, 15 beloved grandchildren, 8 great-grandchildren, 4 great-great-grandchildren, 2 beloved sisters-in-law, Mrs. Mary Wright of Miami, Florida, and Miss Joanne Wright of Atlanta, Georgia. A very special devoted nephew, Mr. Charles Ross, and his wife, Mrs. Priscilla Ross of Decatur, Georgia. A host of nieces, nephews, cousins, other relatives, and many, many sorrowing friends survive. Beloved church mother, Mother Margaret Brown Wright, age 98, 506 Stiles Robinson Road, DeSoto, Georgia. Beloved church mother of the Antioch Baptist Church of DeSoto, Georgia. Again, the family of Mr. Joe Louis Mabel of Americus, Georgia. The family of Mr. Anthony Leron Farrell of Cordele, Georgia. The family of Mrs. Ethel Everett Telfair of Cordele, Georgia. The family of Deaconess Lakeisha Thomas Williams of Cordele, Georgia. The family of beloved church mother, Mother Margaret Brown Wright, age 98, of DeSoto, Georgia, church mother of the Antioch Baptist Church of DeSoto, Georgia, would like to thank their many friends for all of the many kindnesses shown to them during their hours of sorrow and bereavement during the past week. May God bless each of you is their prayer. The J.W. Williams Funeral Directors, serving cordial and Vienna, were in charge of each of these arrangements during the past week. And now, it is certainly with the deepest regret that we make the following announcements. Miss Bernice Brown, age 62, of 801 South 13th Street, Cordele, Georgia, died Tuesday, February 23rd, at the Chris Regional Hospital in Cordele, Georgia. Survivors include her loving and devoted children, Mr. James Brown and Mr. Corey Brown, both of Jersey City, New Jersey, Miss Sherlina Brown and Miss Tanisha Brown, both of Cordele, Georgia, and Mr. Dale Marcus Brown of Jersey City, New Jersey. 12 beloved grandchildren, her loving and devoted mother, Mother Jessie M. Butts Sanders of Cordele, Georgia. Her loving and devoted sisters, Miss Lillian Brown, Miss Doris Jackson, and Mrs. Annie R. Jackson, all of Cordele, Georgia. Miss Catherine Jackson of Columbus, Georgia. Miss Mashonda Brown, Miss Renata A. Brown, Miss Daquita Denise Brown, Miss Chantrella N. Brown, and Miss Millie R. Brown, all of Cordele, Georgia. Her beloved and devoted brothers, Mr. Anthony Brown and his wife, Miss Sharon Brown, Mr. Dennis Jackson and his wife, Miss Keisha Jackson, Mr. Meltavius R. Brown, and Mr. James F. Brown, all of Cordele, Georgia. Her loving and devoted aunts, Miss Mabel Carter, Miss Louise Burgess, Miss Lucinda Gordon, and Mr. Zoni Butts, all of Cordele, Georgia. Mr. Mike Brown of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. A host of nieces and nephews, many cousins, other relatives, and many, many sorrowing friends, to include a special friend, Mr. Darrell Owens of Cordele, Georgia, survived. Miss Bernice Brown, age 62, of 810 South 13th Street, Cordele, Georgia. The funeral service for Miss Bernice Brown will be held Monday, March 1st at 12 noon. Graveside at the Mount Olive Baptist Church Cemetery in Warwick, Georgia. The Reverend Joseph Atkins will officiate. The public walk-up visitation will be today, Sunday, February 28th, from 1 p.m. until 5 p.m. at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. Mr. London Baines Jones, age 56, of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, died Wednesday, February 17th in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, formerly of Ashburn, Georgia. Survivors include his loving and devoted children, Miss Lakeisha Jones and her husband, Mr. Cheney Walton, Mr. London Jones Jr., and Miss Shannon Jones, all of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. His beloved grandchildren, Caven, Calvin, and Colin. His loving and devoted mother, Miss Bernice Jones Paul. His beloved father, Mr. Leonard Ray Sr. His caring sibling, Mr. LaVale Paul, and his wife, Mrs. Vanessa Paul. Miss Erica Paul, all of Fairburn, Georgia. Mr. Leonard Ray of Cordele, Georgia. Mrs. Krista R. Clark of Perry, Georgia. Mr. Tyrone Ray and his wife, Mrs. Elaine Ray of Albany, Georgia. Mrs. Veronica Oliver and her husband, Mr. Willie Oliver of Cordele, Georgia. Mrs. Victoria R. James of Byron, Georgia. Miss Valerie Power of Rex, Georgia. Miss Tawana R. Prather of Warner Robins, Georgia, and Mrs. Samantha Slade and her husband, Mr. Kurt Slade of Albany, Georgia. His beloved aunts and uncles, Miss Annie Jones of Ashburn, Georgia, Mr. Enoch Jones of Bear, Delaware, and Mr. Eddie Jones and his wife, Mrs. Mildred Jones of Orlando, Florida. A host of nieces and nephews, many cousins, other relatives, and many, many sorrowing friends survive. Mr. London Baines Jones, age 56, of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, formerly of Ashburn, Georgia. The funeral service for Mr. London Baines Jones, age 56, will be held Saturday, March 6 at 10 a.m. graveside at the Westview Memorial Gardens in Ashburn, Georgia, with the minister selected officiating. The public walk-up visitation will be Friday, March 5th from 1 p.m. until 5 p.m. at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. Miss Sarah Ann Paul, age 55, of 310 West 14th Avenue, Cordele, Georgia, died Friday, February 26, at Emory Long-Term Acute Care, Decatur, in Decatur, Georgia. Survivors include a loving and devoted daughter, Miss Jessica Paul, and her companion, Mr. Shannon Sims of Cordele, Georgia. 4 loving grandchildren, her beloved and devoted siblings, Mr. David Paul and his wife, Miss Linda Paul, Mr. Maurice Roundtree and his wife, Mrs. Chorsley Roundtree, and Mr. Floyd Roundtree, all of Cordele, Georgia, Mr. Stanley Walker of Macon, Georgia, and Mr. Travis Cheeks of Granville, Florida, Miss Tyra R. Hopper, Miss Tammy E. Minter, and Miss Sandra Walker, all of Cordele, Georgia. Her beloved uncles, Mr. Joseph Wallace and his wife, Mrs. Jackie Wallace of Denver, Colorado, and Mr. Eddie Wallace and his wife, Mrs. Christine Wallace of Meridian, Florida. Her beloved aunts, Miss Beatrice Jimerson of California and Miss Jackie Wallace of Pompano Beach, Florida. Several nieces and nephews, a host of other relatives, and many, many sorrowing friends survive. Miss Sarah Ann Paul, age 55, of 310 West 14th Avenue, Cordele, Georgia. The funeral service for Miss Sarah Ann Paul, age 55, will be announced at a later date pending the completion of the arrangements. Mr. Norris James Hodge, age 72, of 810 West 23rd Avenue, Cordele, Georgia, died Saturday, February 27th at the Chris Regional Hospital in Cordele, Georgia. Survivors include his loving and devoted children, Mrs. Stephanie Perry Clark and her husband, Mr. Alan Clark of Cordele, Georgia, Miss Asia D. Hodge and Miss Belinda Ann Hodge, all of Atlanta, Georgia, Miss Von Teresa Hodge of Cordele, Georgia, Miss Notoria Butts and her husband, Mr. Mario Butts of Kathleen, Georgia, Mr. Adam Hodge of South Carolina, a host of grandchildren and great-grandchildren, his loving and devoted mother, Mother Ida Mae Mumphrey of Cordele, Georgia. His loving and caring sibling, Mrs. Magdalene H. Outlaw of Cordele, Georgia. Mrs. Sharon Denise Morris and her husband, Mr. Melvin Morris. Mrs. Linda Darlene Hodges. Mrs. Sandra Hodges, Mr. Ronald Hodges, and his wife, Mrs. Gloria Hodges, and Mr. Donald Hodges, all of Jacksonville, Florida. His beloved aunts and uncle, Mrs. Ola Mae Evans, and Mr. Clarence Young, both of Jacksonville, Florida, and Miss Dorothy Jean Hodges of Jupiter, Florida. A host of nieces, nephews, many cousins, other relatives, and many, many sorrowing friends survive. Mr. Norris James Hodge, age 76, of 810 West 23rd Avenue, Cordele, Georgia. The funeral service for Mr. Norris James Hodge, age 76, will be announced at a later date, pending the completion of the arrangements. The J.W. Williams Funeral Directors serving Cordele and Vienna are in charge of each of these arrangements during this week. And now for an outer area announcement. Miss Grace Reese, formerly of Cordele, Georgia, died Friday, February 12th in Syracuse, New York. The funeral service will be held Saturday, February 20th. Was held Saturday, February 20th in Syracuse, New York. She is the sister, Mr. James Reese, Mr. Patterson Reese Jr. and his wife, Ms. Jan Reese, Mr. Lucius Reese and his wife, Mrs. Laura Reese, Miss Beverly Reese, Miss Eva Reese, Miss Patricia Reese, and Dr. Teresa Reese Harvey and her husband, Mr. Ray Reese. Ray Harvey survived, and she survived locally by nieces and nephews and cousins. Mrs. Grace Reese, formerly of Cordele, Georgia, died Friday, February 12th in Syracuse, New York. Friends, that conclude our funeral notices for this morning. And as always, we do remind you concerning our pre-funeral arrangements planning available at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home, with packages available with a single pay, a 3-year pay, a 5-year pay, and a 10-year pay. So please stop by and talk with us concerning your pre-funeral arrangements needs available at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. And also whole life insurance is available at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. And now for our It's here.
And now for our announcements. You're invited to worship with the New Poplar Spring Baptist Church today. Sunday morning worship service begins at 9:45 a.m. Wednesday evening worship service at 6:45 p.m. You may join these worship services via conference call by calling 253-993-3761. Pastor Johnny Dean and the members of New Poplar Spring extend you a very cordial invitation to worship with them during these worship services. The Evangelistic Tabernacle Family Outreach Center, Esther Mission Department, is sponsoring its first quarterly drive-through food drive on Saturday, March 20th at 10 o'clock a.m. at the Bacon Church lot located at 610 West Union Street in Vienna, Georgia. You may drive up, unlock the trunk door of your car. Food will be loaded for you. For more information, please contact Mrs. Annie Smith at 229-322-2493 or Minister Lorene West at 229-425-1417. Again, Evangelistic Tabernacle Family Outreach Center, Esther Mission Department will have its first quarterly drive-through food drive on Saturday, March 20th, beginning at 10 o'clock a.m., located at 610 West Union Street, Vienna, Georgia, which is the Bacon Church lot property. You may drive up, unlock your trunk door. Food will be loaded for you. For more information, please contact Mrs. Annie Smith at 229-322-2493 or Minister Lorene West at 229-425-1417. Bishop and Mrs. Arthur West, pastor. The Greater Mars Tabernacle Baptist Church extends you a very cordial invitation to worship with them, and their conference call schedule is as follows. Sunday morning worship service at 9 o'clock a.m. Tuesday midday prayer begins at 12 o'clock noon. Thursday prayer meeting and Bible study is held each Thursday at 6 o'clock p.m. The conference call number is 229-329-7611. Again, that number is 229-329-7611. Dr. K.M. Williams is the pastor. Mother Lucille Shage is the church mother. Deacon Arthur L. Parker is the chairman of deacons. You're invited to worship with the Emmanuel Missionary Baptist Church during their pull-up and praise worship service that's held each Sunday beginning at 10 o'clock a.m. They are located at 1818 U.S. Highway 41 North in Cordele. Everyone has a very cordial invitation to come and worship with the Emmanuel Missionary Baptist Church during their pull-up and praise worship service. Pastor Gregory Williams and the members extend you a very cordial invitation to be a part of the worship experience. The Mount Zion First African Baptist Church announces and celebrates the 134th church anniversary today and the 14th anniversary of his beloved pastor, Dr. Dan James III. This service will be held today beginning at 11 o'clock a.m. via conference call. Pastor Willie James Washington, pastor of the Zion Christian Fellowship Ministry International Incorporated, will be the guest speaker. Everyone is invited to share in this service. The conference call number for the worship service today is 515-604-9765. 515-604-9765. The access code is 288180. And if you have any questions regarding the numbers to call or the access code, please contact any member of the Mount Zion First African Baptist Church. Deacon Joe Wedges is the chairman of deacons. Dr. Dan James III is the pastor. The Gethsemane Baptist Church extends you a very cordial invitation to worship with them during their worship service Sunday mornings at 10:30 a.m. via Zoom. The public call-in number is 312-626-6799. The meeting ID number is 846-9805-5243. The passcode is 50814. Bible study is held each Wednesday at 7 o'clock p.m. You may join them at Bible study via conference call by calling 229-234-9066. Deacon Johnny Wilson is the chairman of deacons. Brother Cecil Straughter is the pastor. As always, we'd like to remind you we have community announcements or dedications that you would like for us to share on our program. We encourage you to email those announcements to us by reaching out to us at jwwilliamsfh@bellsouth.net. You may fax those to us at 229-273-5111, or you may drop them off to us before Saturday at 12 o'clock noon in order for us to use them on the program on Sunday morning. We thank you so much for that, and we encourage each of you to stay safe as we continue through this pandemic season. These are our announcements for today.
And now for dedication. Our first selection this morning is dedicated to the following: in loving memory of Mrs. Artis C. Epps, who departed this life February 24th, 1989. And also in loving memory of Miss Lois Carter, who departed this life February 24th, 2019. Dedication requested by the Epps, Lawton, and Carter families, gone but not forgotten. In loving memory of Mrs. Jeanette W. Kears, who would have celebrated her birthday February 27th, dedication requested by the entire Kears family, gone but not forgotten. In loving memory of Mrs. Sheila Harris, who would have celebrated her birthday March the 3rd, dedication requested by the Jones, Fields, and Jackson family. Precious memory, linger still. In loving memory of Mrs. Lucy Poole, who departed this life March the 3rd, 1985. Dedication requested by her beloved family, gone but not forgotten. In loving memory of Mrs. Pearline Wright, who departed this life March 3rd, 1985. Dedication requested by the Wright family. Precious memory lingers still. In loving memory of Mr. Eddie Ray, who departed this life March 4th, 2015. Dedication requested by his beloved wife, Mrs. Shirley Ray, and the entire family, gone but not forgotten. Our first selection this morning is dedicated to the following: happy 51st anniversary to Dr. Dan and Mrs. Elaine James, who are celebrating their anniversary today, February 28th. Dedication requested by their family and the entire Mount Zion First African Baptist Church. Happy 51st anniversary, Dr. Dan James III and his beloved wife, Mrs. Elaine James. Our first selection this morning is dedicated to the following: happy birthday to Mrs. Claudette Armstrong, who celebrated her birthday Thursday, February 18th. Dedication requested by the Armstrong, Lawton, and Epps family. Happy birthday to Miss Briannica Hunt, who celebrated her birthday Tuesday, February 23rd. Dedication requested by her father, Mr. Frederick Lewis, and the entire Applin family. Happy birthday to Brother F.D. Lawton, who celebrated his birthday Wednesday, February 24th. Dedication requested by the Lawton and Epps family. Happy birthday to Mrs. Vivian Fullwood Daniels, who celebrated her birthday Thursday, February 25th. Dedication requested by the Fullwood and Daniels family. Happy birthday to Miss Miranda Hamilton, who celebrated her birthday Friday, February 26th. Dedication requested by the entire family and Mrs. Mary Frances Davis. Happy birthday to Mr. Joshua Clark Williams, who celebrated his birthday Saturday, February 27th. Dedication requested by the entire family. Happy birthday to Mrs. Jennifer Felton Daniels Lewis, who celebrated her birthday Saturday, February 27th. Dedication requested by the entire family. Happy birthday to Commissioner Tim Robinson of Vienna, Georgia, who celebrated his birthday Saturday, February 27th. Dedication requested by the entire family. Happy birthday to Miss Deborah Mason, who is celebrating her birthday today, February 28th. Dedication requested by Mr. Frederick Lewis and the entire Applin family. Happy birthday to Mrs. Fannie Mae Mumphrey, who is celebrating her birthday today, February 28th. Dedication comes from her husband, Deacon Sammy Mumphrey, all of the children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and the entire family. Happy birthday to Mrs. Fannie Mae Mumphrey on today. Happy birthday to Miss Nairobi Levant, who is celebrating her birthday today, February 28th. Dedication requested by her beloved parents, Mr. A.B. and Miss Valerie Levant, and the entire family. Happy birthday to Mrs. Gwen Hardy, who is celebrating her birthday today, February 28th. Dedication requested by the entire family. Special birthday wishes goes out to our beloved Miss Burrow Patrick, who is celebrating her birthday on today, February 28th. Dedication requested by the family. And special birthday wishes goes out from Mrs. Aletha Askew to Miss Burrow Patrick. Happy birthday, Miss Patrick, and many, many more. Happy birthday to Mr. Victor Montfrey, who will celebrate his birthday Monday, March 1st. Dedication requested by his beloved wife, the children, grandchildren, and the entire family. And happy birthday to little Jaquia Levant, who is celebrating his 4th birthday Tuesday, March 2nd. Dedication requested by his beloved parents, grandparents, and the entire family. And happy birthday to retired educator, Mr. Ernest Kears, who will celebrate his birthday Wednesday, March 3rd. Dedication requested by his beloved sister, Miss Catherine Brown, his brother, Brother J.D. Kears, and the entire family, and the members of the Greater Morris Tabernacle Baptist Church, his pastor, Dr. K.M. Williams, Deacon Tommy Ford, and Mother Lucille Shazer, all says happy birthday. Happy birthday to Miss Charsley Roundtree, who will celebrate her birthday Tuesday, March 2nd. Dedication requested by her beloved husband, Mr. Maurice Roundtree, and the entire family. Happy birthday to Mr. Ray Paul, who will celebrate his birthday Saturday, March 6th. Dedication requested by the entire family. And special birthday wishes goes out to our own Brother George Whitehead Jr., who celebrated his birthday on Friday. Happy birthday to Brother George Whitehead Jr. on this past Friday from the staff and management of the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. And according to him, this according to George Whitehead Jr., he's celebrating his 50th birthday. He's no longer High Duke, but will be only George Whitehead Jr. He's dropping High Duke there, so, talk with him about that. Shall I ask that Brother Owens, if you'll step in for a minute for me, please. Brother Owens, step in for a minute. Hold on 1 minute for me, please. Did he leave? Okay. Do me a favor, call 229-322-2756 for me, okay? Cordele, Georgia, died Tuesday, February 23rd at the Chris Regional Hospital in Cordele, Georgia. The funeral service for Ms. Bernice Brown will be held Monday, March 1st at 12 noon, graveside at the Mount Olive Church Cemetery in Warwick, Georgia. The Reverend Joseph Atkins will officiate. The public walk-up visitation will be today, Sunday, February 28th, from 1 p.m. until 5 p.m. at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. Mr. London Baines Jones, age 56, of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, formerly of Ashburn, Georgia, died Wednesday, February 17th in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The funeral service for Mr. London Baines Jones, age 56, will be held Saturday, March 6 at 10 a.m., graveside at the Westview Memorial Gardens in Ashburn, Georgia, with the minister-selected officiating. The public walk-up visitation will be Friday, March 5th, from 1 p.m. until 5 p.m. at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. Miss Sarah Ann Paul, age 55, of 310 West 14th Avenue, Cordele, Georgia, died Friday, February 26 at Emory Long-Term Acute Care, Decatur, in Decatur, Georgia. The funeral service for Miss Sarah Ann Paul, age 55, will be announced at a later date, pending the completion of the arrangements. Mr. Norris James Hodge, age 72, of 810 West 23rd Avenue, Cordele, Georgia, died Saturday, February 27th at the Chris Regional Hospital in Cordele, Georgia. The funeral service for Mr. Norris James Hodge will be announced at a later date, pending the completion of the arrangements. The J.W. Williams funeral directors serving Cordele and Vienna are in charge of each of these arrangements during this week. Our selection this morning is dedicated to the bereaved families whose loved one were laid to rest during the past week. The family Mr. Joe Louis Mabel of Americus, Georgia. The family Mr. Anthony Leron Farrell of Cordele, Georgia. The family Miss Ethel Everett Telfair of Cordele, Georgia. The family of Deaconess Lakeisha Thomas Williams of Cordele, Georgia. And the family of beloved church mother, Mother Margaret Brown Wright, age 98, of DeSoto, Georgia, beloved church mother of the Antioch Baptist Church of DeSoto, Georgia. This selection is dedicated to the bereaved families whose loved ones will be laid to rest during this week. The family of Miss Bernice Brown of Cordele, Georgia. The family of Mr. London Baines Jones of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and Ashburn, Georgia. The family of Miss Sarah Ann Paul of Cordele, Georgia. The family of Mr. Norris James Hodge of Cordele, Georgia. Our program is dedicated to all of the sick and shut-in, to all patients in the local and surrounding hospitals, nursing homes, and rehabilitation centers, to our beloved ministers and their devoted family members, to all retired educators, to the men and women serving in our armed forces, both stateside and abroad, to all veterans, and to everyone who listens to our program on each Sunday morning. It's a pleasure for us to bring it to you. Our program goes out in memory of our past president, Dr. Napoleon Williams, goes out to my wife, Mrs. Calandra Wilkerson Parker, to my son, Jai Wilkerson Parker. The selection goes out to my mother-in-law, Mrs. Billy Ann Hall and family, to my brother, retired Chief Master Sergeant Norman F. Dexter, and his wife, Mrs. Gwendolyn Maxine Dexter and family. Goes out to my sister, Miss Mandy Mae Johnson, better known as Sister Girl, and Mrs. Patsy Jackson and her husband, Mr. Jim Jackson of Cordele, Georgia. This selection goes out to my nephew, Deacon Kenneth Smith, program chairman of the Greater Morris Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church. Goes out to our pastor, Dr. K.M. Williams. Again, invite you to worship this morning via Facebook at 9 a.m. and conference call. And also the service will be held this morning on the grounds of the Greater Morris Tabernacle Baptist Church, and invite you to come this morning. Our program goes out to our beloved church mother, Mother Lucille Shazer. Yes, Sister Lucille Shazer, age 108, celebrated a birthday this past Sunday with a beautiful drive-through and wave held on the grounds of the Greater Morris Tabernacle Baptist Church, and sponsored by her beloved niece, Miss Gwendolyn Porter, and the entire family there. Happy birthday, Mother Lucille Shazer, age 108, headed to 109. And called me this past week, was wondering if I was going to be at the church today on the ground. So she's planning on being there. Ain't that a blessing there? Our program goes out to Deacon James Smith and family, Miss Willie Mae Crapp and family, Dr. Ruby Jackson and family, Deacon Johnny and Dr. Diane Hosley and family, Mrs. Lily Kate Granville Cotton and family, Deacon Henry King and family, Miss Betty Roberson and family, Miss Gladys Foster and family, Miss Willie Mae Leary and family of Hatley, Georgia, Deacon Earl Leary and family, Patricia Leary and family, Mr. Eddie Leary and family, Mr. William Carter, and the entire Carter family. This goes out to our dear friend, Mrs. Cheryl Henry and family of Americus, Georgia. And again, to each and everyone who listens to our program on each Sunday morning, it's a pleasure to bring it to you. It goes out to my cousin, Deacon Emery Wright and family, the entire Wright family of Lee County and Doherty County, and the Reverend Donner Hall, again, who celebrated his 40th anniversary of preaching the gospel on this past Monday. Good morning, Reverend Hall. God bless you. Our final selection for this morning.
Thank you for joining us this morning. We hope you've enjoyed our program. Tune in again on next Sunday morning. In your time of need, contact the competent, capable, and dependable staff at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home.
Some of these days, well,